All set? All right. Everybody ready? So this is going to be my my executive slides, not the fun ones with all the memes. So I'm sorry in advance. So my name's Amanda. I am InfoSister Online. I work for Hurricane Labs as an information security architect, implementing Splunk. That's the majority of what we do. Is Splunk is an MSSP. If you don't know what Splunk is, it's like a log aggregator, and it has some SIM stuff built into it. I've been working in security I've been working in IT in general for about 12 years, and I really started focusing on security in the last 2 to 3 years. So I came from a mostly healthcare background. I worked at a hospital for 7 years doing anything. I started there as a help desk tech, and then went up to networking engineer, and then started doing some of the security stuff before I kind of outgrew what they could do for me. So I was a Windows admin for a while. Worked on a lot of Cisco, Checkpoint, kind of a jack of all trades. We had a decent-sized healthcare system, about 2,000 people work there, 400 beds, like Central Ohio. So we didn't really have anybody dedicated to security. We kind of just gave it to everybody, They didn't have the ability to pay us a security salary, so they paid us a network analyst salary and just had us do security on top of it. So the one thing that I did for them is me and a couple of our other coworkers set up a phishing program, and this really goes along well with what Tess was talking about earlier. So taking everything that she said, and this is going to be what we did to build this program from the ground up at a hospital. So just like she said, you have, we had nurses to worry about. We had C-level execs. We had, doctors, which, type A personality, always difficult to deal with and try and teach new things and have them start doing different behaviors. So this is the hospital that I worked at. Around 2,000 employees, 30 sites, anywhere from quick cares to the full hospital sites. There's two large sites, to a handful of doctors' offices, outpatient, pharmacies. We did a lot of retail, so we had to worry not only about HIPAA but PCI data. We had already worked on our security structure quite a bit. We knew what we didn't have. I have another talk that goes over all the fails that we had over the 2 years where we realized we had no security. The guy that had worked there for a long time, and this happens in a lot of organizations where you have a guy that knows a little bit about server stuff, so they're like, hey, we're going to send you to a boot camp, and now you're our admin, and you're in charge of setting up all the networking and all the backups and all the security, and they're really usually not prepared for that type of stuff. So we had a full 2 years where we went from an example is like our domain admin password was 4 characters and all one case and a common, it was absolutely ridiculous. You had access to our domain controllers from the internet. It was absolutely one of the worst secured networks that you could probably imagine. So once we got all of that fixed, we realized that we needed a layer of user education on top of it, because a lot of the infections that were coming in were from phishes. We had a pretty decent mail filtering that was built in-house on top of antivirus scanning, all that kind of stuff. But we knew that our employees were the weakest link, so we needed to kind of focus on that a little bit more. We had, other than like CBTs, so for PCI and other 3-letter, things that you have to comply with. They make you do CBT training to kind of check mark a checkbox. So that's the only training that our users had gotten is, don't share people's information. They never got any actual security training. And we were approved for $1,000 budget, which is not a lot when it's that size of a company. But I mean, again, like Tess said, you could do it pretty much with no money at all. We wanted to kind of show what we could do with $1,000 that other people were spending tens of thousands of dollars for. There's a lot of professional companies out there that will do phishing, like PhishMe. You can go to your local pen testing company and they'll do it for you as well. But we wanted to see what we could do for that $1,000. So I was allowed to do a first phish without really any C-level approval. This is what it looked like. This was a learning experience for me as well. I used SET, which is a social engineering toolkit. It's in Kali. You can download it as its own type thing. It's a command line that you can run through. Give it a list of usernames. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with it, but I wanted to start out with the basis, like the most basic email that I could possibly send. I picked out like 50 people to send it to. And I broke my instance, and that's why it says sorry about the broken link. The first time I sent it out, I did it wrong, and I sent it to 50 people or so, and the link broke and my server broke and I had to start all over again. So that was another learning experience for me to kind of test my own stuff before I tested on the people. So this was actually spoofing as our HR department, but it was from a Gmail address. So I gave them no warning, and a lot of time throughout this, and this is this presentation, it happens over the course of a year, or almost a year. So I didn't give them any warning. They didn't know, we didn't have any formal program in place yet. I kind of just wanted a baseline. There's a script out there called the Harvester that you can run against your website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google results, that kind of stuff, for a domain that will send you back a list of addresses. So I wanted to kind of not use any of my insider knowledge to get those list of emails, because those are actually the people that were constantly being targeted, like your CFO, your CTO, the kind of people that have access to the super sensitive information, and their emails are out there everywhere. So I wanted to use that. Like I said, SET bombed out on me, and I was able to get right away 16 usernames and passwords. It made me giddy. I was really excited because I hadn't done any red team stuff up until this point. So I was really super happy that I was able to actually get people to give me their usernames and passwords. And we only got 4 reports. And at that point, we had no good way for them to report it to us other than either calling to the help desk, and honestly, our help desk was shit, and they didn't really want to call into our help desk. So that was another thing that we had to work on. So here's our second phish, also from a Gmail address. This one I actually got the username and password of our IS assistant director. And again, just a plain HTML email address with a link to the server that SET runs on will scrape a web page, right? So it'll scrape a web page and actually look like it's a legitimate web page, and then you put your username and password in, and it will automatically redirect you to wherever you say. So they either redirect you to the website that they thought they were going to, or one of your choosing. In this case, we still didn't have this. Since this is the second one, we still didn't have anything formally written as far as user education goes. So it kind of just took them back to the employee portal, and they didn't really learn anything because at that point they thought it was just a glitch in the website or whatever. And at that point, I got 54 usernames and passwords out of 250. I can't remember. I think this is the one. Not only did we get our IS director, but we also got our CEO, and it was like his second or third month there. He had heard we were trying to do a program like this, but we hadn't really gotten any responses other than, yeah, sure, whatever, go ahead. After we got his username and password, he was really interested in moving the program forward. Right. So we decided we needed a program with teeth. In my other slide deck, this is a way creepier picture. We called it Something Smells Fishy, which is a common name. And these are some of the slides that we used for our user education. So after we decided, okay, maybe we should start educating them after they click on the link, we made that an auto redirect to a page where these slides were at. It said, hey, you've been hacked and it's okay, and gave them a description of what we were doing and why it was important, to kind of grow the program from there, and kind of, it was kind of a pilot type thing. So I always like using the word hacker in a positive light when it comes to blue team or red team, either one. So letting them know that we were there to help them, not be the enemy, not, go around smacking them in the hands for giving us a username and password. It's kind of like, like a fire drill, same concepts apply. Some of the stuff you guys already know, so don't click on links. It was all we could do at that point to get the information across. At a later date, we started working with marketing, but this was kind of just all me and one other person trying to put all of this together. It's difficult in some organizations, I think, to get something like this up and off the ground, just because it's hard to get everybody in all the departments to know about it. Not everybody reads their email. Not everybody will go to company meetings. They won't read the newsletter, whatever. So that was one of the most difficult things, is actually getting the information out to everybody. We gave them some things to report. And then we came up with contest rules. So we were able to say, if you called us, if you forwarded either a phishing attempt from our hackers, or you forwarded a phishing attempt that actually came from a legitimate person, that it was going to start to count towards this program that we're putting together. So what we did is we used some of that $1,000 and we went out and bought a fishbowl. We bought a rain jacket and this giant fish pillow, and a couple of people really got into it, so that when they started reporting, we would do kind of like a lottery drawing, and if they got picked, they would come down to the office and they would put on this, some of them didn't want to do it, obviously, because they're old nurses and they're just grumpy. But some of them, they would put on this rain slicker and then just be stabbing this fish, and they get their picture put in our newsletter, and kind of spread the word of mouth by what we were doing. Because not only did they get that, but we also had some prizes that I'll say a little bit later on. So we tried to hit all of them, so phishing, vishing, all that kind of stuff, tailgating. We had some people starting to try and game the system. So they're trying to forward fishes that they got at home to their work email to forward in to get entered more into the drawing. Yeah. Right. They're like, no, sorry, that doesn't count. So some of the awards. Monthly, we were drawing 2 people. And we would give them, we had a coffee shop in the hospital, so, we gave them like a $5, $10 gift card to that, to the Java place inside the hospital. And then quarterly, and we try to keep it fish themed, so quarterly they would either get a Bass Pro or Red Lobster. for $50. And at the end of the year, they could get $300 to Amazon. So if you, every time you submitted something, your name went in the fishbowl. Every time, you know, you called the help desk with something, or if you forwarded an email, anything like that, you had the opportunity, and it really started to take off. So these are the actual fishes after the program's been put together. This was the splash page, well, a version of the splash page, since I now work for another company. This is the version of the splash page that that they got to see after they gave me their username and password, or after they opened a PDF that was named like .exe, .pdf. And then this part was very, very tedious. Tess talked about it taking a lot of time. With 2 people working on this project, I worked in spreadsheets a lot, and I really, really started to hate them. So a couple friends of mine and me were starting to write kind of something to keep track of internal internal phishing attempts like this, so you can do like a graduated system. We wanted, you know, if a user, if I targeted a user and say they gave me their username and password, all right, well, they failed January. So they automatically get put on a list for February's. On February, if they pass, that's great. They're now graduated to a more difficult fish. So now they won't get just the HTML and the link. They might get, you know, an actual spoofed from address, or they might get, you know, a little bit flashier language. So we started to build a program around that. A lot of the ones out there currently are for one-off phishing attempts here and there, whereas there's nothing that would help you track a user's process throughout the user education system. So here's my first legitimate one after we've created the program. I was allowed to send it to about 1,000 people, but I still got 322 usernames and passwords. And I mean, honestly, you only need one. You want to focus most on reporting. You're not going to block all of the phishing attempts. You're not going to alert on all of them. You know, you want the fastest and most well thought out process, so you can start to do, you know, go through your IR and either get the person out of your network or find out what they're doing. But to have that knowledge, I think, is more important than anything. February is kind of focused around Valentine's Day. This one was fairly successful as well. Also came from a Gmail address. I still wasn't trying too hard because it was only the 2nd month. And that was sent to 567, and I still got 89 usernames and passwords, but reporting's finally going up. I got 49 reports in some way or another. I was having people, you know, stop our help desk when they're walking to lunch to tell them, like, you probably should have called, but, you know, you get an A for effort. So here's March's. Another Gmail address. I probably at this point have 50 Gmail addresses of just random crap that I probably should check every now and then. I actually had people start replying to the Gmail addresses, which was really hard to track. Sent it to 1,000 more. And look at the difference between usernames, passwords, and reports. So at that point, you only have 4 given and 37 reports. And this was a big win for the first real fish caught and reported and blocked. It was an actual director that we had, somebody that he was actively working with on a project, had his email, it was like a third-party contractor, had his email compromised, and it was sending out, you know, infected files or whatever, and capture credential link to all the people in his address book. He didn't click on it. He thought it looked funny. It didn't really have anything to do with the project that they were currently working on. And he had gone and looked at our training and realized that this might look funny, so that he should probably report it before he did anything with it. It was actually a credential harvesting website. And we were able to use him as an example. A good example. So I learned from this one as well. So this was another one that I made. I kind of took an email that I had and, borrowed all the HTML from it, and kind of did something bad. So this was a shipment of it's like $900 in fine china to a South African address, and I told the users that it was their Kohl's account that it came from. I had a decent amount of reports, but there was one individual that actually canceled her Kohl's card and canceled her, called Amazon to report fraud activity. I kind of thought it was funny, but I wouldn't want to be, I had to apologize because it wasn't my goal. It wasn't my goal to have her think that it was actually compromised. But so I stopped using that one. It was effective, though. I mean, I got her Amazon username and password, which I didn't want. So we didn't draw her name out of the fishbowl. We just kind of gave her a gift card anyways. And on that one, there were 261 reports, including hers. So here's May and June's. This is actually from the pen tester that we used. Once a year, we would go out and hire a third-party pen testing company to come in and do almost a full scope pen test. So social engineering, phishing, you name it. They started with the phishing and kind of just went from there. So this was their template that they used on us. It wasn't me just pulling stuff out of my butt. Yeah, it's very good. We paid for this. I'm just doing it because I thought it was fun and I'm starting to learn. But these are the professionals, and then this is our results. So they sent 41 emails, and we had zero people phished, and 6 reports. So we went from sometimes upwards of 300 usernames and passwords being given to 0. And they actually sent one in May and those are the 2 different results for each. So the second time there were 59 sent and one person was phished. Depends on what you count. I mean, they were phished. They clicked on the link and gave their username and password, but it was outside the scoped time. I think it still counts, but they did report it. So for the first Phish that came in, the campaign started at 10:30, and the first C-level reported it at 10:33. Those are metrics that, 1, people don't track, and 2, people don't want to talk about, because a lot of times, it's days later before, reports actually come in. But we put such a heavy emphasis on time matters. You need to report because of these reasons. That's why I think I want to talk to Tess and do maybe a group talk, just because what she has put together with this kind of stuff, I think would make a great all-around, this is what you can do and this is why. But yeah, 3 minutes is a huge win for something like that. And we did a whole bunch of other stuff too. So other people reported it. We null routed, the IP address that it was going to. The only people in the organization that knew that we were having a pen test was me, my boss, and our director of IS. So the people that were actually performing the IR had no idea. our help desk had no idea. They weren't planning on this actually happening. So it's not like this was skewed results. So here's July. I started to get a little bit more difficult now that I was starting to target people more than once. And we still had pretty good metrics. And then this is one of my favorites, is August. We had a Jimmy John's open right across the street. And all I did was attach a PDF with our training material just to see how many people would report it. And we got 31, which I'm assuming a lot of people just didn't report it, or maybe, I don't know. Right. Right. Like, this doesn't look like a coupon, but could I still get my 20% off? And then I actually left the company in October, so this was the last one that I was allowed to send. This is a template that comes with Set. Set comes with like 4 or 5 templates right out of the box. Just a basic, like, have you seen this type email, and this was another attachment of just the training material. And I said hell with it because I was leaving anyways, so I sent it to everybody in the company. And this was the amount of reports before I left. So I'm not sure if there were more than that or not. So here's some of the graphs. It kind of goes over, so it's really difficult to see. Ugh. No, that doesn't work. So the purple are the emails sent, and there's months across the bottom. So I went from, let's see here, I can't even read it. So purple is email sent, blue is phished, and yellow is reported. So the more yellow, the better. We just realized that we were getting better over the months, and we also realized from this that we weren't doing a great job on marketing it because a lot of people didn't know about it. As I was leaving, we were starting to get together with the marketing department because we had our own in-house marketing team. So getting them to actually make things a lot prettier, since that's not really my job. Kind of catch people's eyes instead. And more graphs. So Phish percent and reported percent. So Phish percent going down is good. Purple going down is good. The blue going up is even better. So what I've learned. One, I love XKCD. And that you can't attract flies with honey. I was actually going to use that quote in the slide, and then this is the first thing that came up, and I'm like, well, I can't use that quote anymore. We wanted to make sure we weren't being the bad guys. There's a lot of companies that will have a wall of shame, like, haha, you clicked, you're getting a demotion or slap on the wrist or whatever. Nobody's going to come to you. Nobody's going to report anything. They think you're the bad guy. They think that, why should they go to you if you're not going to help them? And, it's our job to better the organizations that we're in, by doing what we can. And a lot of times what we can is helping the other users that don't do what we do. They're, in this case, most of them were nurses. It's their job to take care of the patients. It's not their job to know security. It's our job to know security. They need to just realize it's all right to report it to us so we can take it there on the next step. So these are actually from the Verizon Data Breach Intelligence report from last year. So 23% of recipients open phishing messages and 11% click on attachments. Over the last year or so, phishing has really become mainstream, I guess, when it comes to something that companies are really worried about. You know, in the job that we do, that I do now, that's one of the top questions is how do we report on phishing attempts that come in our organization? How do we alert on that kind of stuff? Because it's really a large threat. I mean, the people are the weakest link. Bless you. And 50% open emails and click on them within the first hour. I actually read a study, it kind of depends sometimes when you send phishing reports as well. Sometimes, like after a 3-day weekend, it's good to send because people are trying to just crank through their emails and they're not really thinking. I think Wednesday mornings, odd enough, was another one. But there's actually studies out there that show when the best time is, when the best time of the year, when the best time of the week is to actually send those phishing emails to get the best results. Another thing I learned is getting the point across. You know, working with marketing probably should have been something that we did from square one. But that wasn't our focus. We thought, hey, we could just educate the users by phishing them instead. But I think they were more interested in the program, which makes sense. You know, there's a little kickback for them. So we should have gotten it out there in better channels, I think, than we did. But, you know, that's the growing pains of it. You know, starting a program like this in a decent sized company, you know, it's, as long as you learn from your mistakes. And it's definitely not one size fit all. I talked to a friend of mine that worked for a really large credit card company, and they weren't allowed to do any phishing of their users because it would affect their bottom line. They had people on, you know, in call centers, you know, talking to customers all day long, and they weren't allowed to phish those people because every second or minute or whatever you take away from them talking to a customer, you know, not only affects their paycheck, but also affects the bottom line of the company. So they accepted the risk, which is not something you ever want to hear. Some of the stuff I'd change. So I really pissed off our help desk a lot because I wouldn't tell them when I was sending out these phishing emails, and I wouldn't check first to see how many people were actually working. Yes, but when you have one person working the help desk and everybody's on a project somewhere, they were not very happy. So what I started doing was telling their boss. So then we could kind of coordinate at least when the phishes would take place to make sure they were at least somewhat fully staffed. We still weren't telling them we were sending the emails. We were just making sure we weren't screwing them over by, you know, bombarding the phones and pissing off the end user. More automation. I did everything with PowerShell scripts and Excel, and it killed a little bit of my soul every time. I really wanted to add physical. I'm really, really bad at phishing. Really bad at it. So I wanted to do the physical. We were going to start teaming up with other local hospitals, since, like, I mean, you know, it's a small area. Everybody knows that you're in IT. We were going to start by physically pen testing each other's hospitals, because, like, you don't know the IT guy from the next hospital over. You know, they don't look familiar, but we were going to give them a badge, and we were going to, you know, pen test each other's hospitals and kind of see how that worked out. And then more measurements. I think a lot of, I think a lot of the automation would have helped out with measurements, as far as, you know, how fast the user progressed, you know, where we could better ourselves. You know, maybe we were focusing, you know, on day shift nursing. You know, it's a 24/7 hospital. You know, maybe the people at night need a little bit more talking to. Maybe it's, you know, our housekeepers or whatever. You know, based on, department, or, I had also been asked if we could do it on, like, age and if they're a guy or a girl, because the majority of them were women. And this is my stuff. I have all of the training modules and the templates and everything out on.
Hi folks, Iron Geek here. Unfortunately, the batteries ran out on the microphone, so we won't have any audio until about the 40-minute, 10-second mark. Sorry for the technical inconvenience.
I'll watch it on.
They got every time they report it, they got a fishbowl, monthly, quarterly, yearly.
Are there any additional?
More advanced users with more advanced new users with big. Trying to think some of our other. Oh, we were actually going to build in. We're actually going to build in user education into it as well. So there would be some templates for user education. You can add your own templates. You know there's going to be some phishing templates in it. You can add your own phishing templates. It won't be as yet. It won't be as advanced as SET because I mean with SET you can do a lot of advanced phishing. But yes, Bill.
One of my frustrations with that is the ability to track and ability to be better. So how do you get past that? So you can do harvesting.
Right. So Bill's question is, why does SET suck?
I mean, we're doing a phishing campaign now. Where we're using a pre-built phishing campaign from a company we're paying money for. It's not the fish that sucks.
It doesn't. It's a really good program.
You know, Dave, pen trester, he thinks of the pen test. He likes to have a tool that was not as lethal. So you're not screwing with your environment or screwing with your users, and then you don't have to initiate instant response to clean up after your phishing. You know, your phishing.
Right.
And that's the problem I always run into.
Well, do you have to do instant response stuff if you just capture credentials, or yeah?
No, well, sometimes. It just depends. It depends on the organization.
The part I don't like about credential capturing is that
It exports in an XML. Right. Yeah.
So maybe we should get Dave and have a town hall on set.
No, I do not want that. It's called Trident. Mm-hmm. No, but hopefully there's going to be a talk at DEF CON for it if they accept it. So. I actually wrote some of the documentation for that. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Ruby on Rails.
That's why I stopped writing documentation for it. ours is going to be in Python, so.
Yeah. It has some very useful
Trying to get that installed on different platforms is a pain in the ass.
We're in a campaign now with Phish. There's another one out there that was from Secure State.
I don't like Secure State, but that's just me.
This is recorded, so I'm not necessarily.
I think I have more customers.
Supposed to be pretty good at the configuration of this too. It's not well documented. So we went for Phish.
Yeah, they're pretty popular, but they don't really have much competition. So we're hoping to be like, I mean, it's all going to be open source and stuff, but. Anybody else? My book is hopefully coming out next year. It's due. I didn't talk about my book. I'm writing a book, but it doesn't have anything to do with fishing. It does have all the user education stuff in it, though. That's a full chapter. I said it was a full chapter. It's on best practice defensive security.
So,
Right.
where do you see yourself?
Oh, Jesus.
Uh,
Still single. Still single and not sleeping on your couch ever again.